Your membership really is at the forefront of that, because I think there is, and this is not a regulatory or even California thing. I mean, I think this is a national thing. So few Americans, I think, really have an understanding about how the mail really moves and gets to them.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely correct. It's something we've taken for granted. It's a United States Postal Service is a uniquely American experiment for a country that uniquely experiments in its history in terms of, its growth and its ambitions and how it tries to knit together an engaged and connected society. There's a few big statistics I always love to share when talking about the movement of the mail. The first one is that the United States moves 50% of the world's mail. And it's not even just the United States. The United States moves 50% of the world's mail. And then not only does it do that, but the United States Postal Service has an obligation to drop off or pick up mail at 161 million locations Monday through Saturday. There is no comparable transportation network in the country, in the world. There's no comparable mail system, sort of state or governmental mail system in the world. And so it's an incredibly intensive and challenging supply chain. And all of it, almost all of it, moves actually through private hands. The only part that is really controlled, and even this is not 100% controlled by the Postal Service, is that final mile. From that post office to your door. And that's that iconic Postal Service vehicle that you've seen growing up, that you see today. But longer than that final mile, it's all private companies. It's all of large and small in size. And they're the ones that actually make sure that the mail continues to be delivered to those 161 million locations.
Unbelievable. I mean, the logistics of this alone are so Herculean. And I mean, even what we receive in the mail is changing, where now we see such incredibly sensitive products shipped. We're talking about people's medications. We're talking about, ballots for elections. We're talking about financial documents. I mean, I know there was a time there, I think in the early 2000s, where people were sort of like, well, we don't really need the mail. So much of this is digital. And it's like, well, actually, the digital has really bled into the physical world in ways that any sort of delay in service could have life-altering ramifications.
Yeah, I don't think you can have said it better, Zach. I think it's absolutely correct. I mean, from the very earliest days of this country's history, the mail served an important role to the spread of democracy and to the growth of this country. And while we took it for granted for some period of time fairly recently, or maybe even sort of derided the mail as purely marketing and catalogs, the things that maybe clutter our desks and we don't have any value, today, in part because of the e-commerce revolution, the mail has new significance, and perhaps some of its greatest significance it had in decades. And that's because you're right, it's delivering medications, right? It's not just delivering grandma's birthday card. And more importantly, it's delivering packages. And those packages we often associate with with Amazon and big corporations. But in reality, the small businesses of America rely on that package delivery network, and the Postal Service provides a valuable service in doing that. So it's not just big business, and it's not just gifts. You got to think about who's sending them, who's making them, who's putting in the box on the other end, and that's the small businesses of the United States. And so, today the well-oiled functioning of the Postal Service is critical to the financial success of the country and to the businesses that comprise Main Street. Postal Service transportation, pretty niche industry, kind of was an area people weren't aware of. Well, the Postal Service is changing its entire surface transportation network, which means that if you are moving commercial freight today, odds are you might be moving mail tomorrow.